Hello, and welcome to part 2 of our series on the people of Fenrayne. When I talk about the different people that live on the continent of Fenrayne, I usually pull out one or two examples of individuals, traditions, or archetypes to describe a people, like how Hütchen love to be the center of attention, or how Diren loves stories. But people aren't just one thing. That's like saying all humans love pizza. Lots of humans love pizza. In fact, I think everyone I know loves pizza. But I can't speak for everyone. Today, we're going to make it through the H's. There are a lot of people in Fenrayne whose species starts with an H. We're going to hear about Helblings, humans, Hütchen, and Hylja. But first, let's talk about the Grenker. The name Grenker comes from the French word for frog, which I'm not even going to begin to pronounce, so you can just forget about that. Though they are frog-like, I never really wanted frog people in Fenrayne. Grenker evolved in my mind from the desire to have people who were unique and who weren't directly based on one animal or a concept that already existed. In the year 283 ADW, an intrepid group of Grenker adventurers set out to the northeast to look for the long-lost city of Karnif. Karnif was said to be an ancient city built on top of and into a large hill, similar to how Greenfield is today. Rumors told of a vast library somewhere within its borders. Many Grenker have a thing for books, and a lost library would be the treasure of a lifetime for those adventurers. Locating Karnif, they found a place swarming with the dead. Clearing it out bit by bit, they made their way to the center of the long-abandoned city. In its center, they found a place they dubbed the Necropolis, a city of the dead tunneling down into the hill that Karnif sat atop. They slowly made their way through the vast tunnel system below Karnif, clearing it out room by room, destroying the dead and safeguarding the places with iron and silver. Things became methodical after a while. Rooms were cleared, safeguarded, and renovated, and they had the feeling that they were getting to the end of things. But then something happened. Ghosts began to appear. While silver and steel worked on ghosts, the same safeguards that worked for other dead didn't always have the same effect. They had to figure out new ways, trying everything from fresh flowers like lavender and poppies, to burning magnesium, to salt, and getting help from their neighboring towns, which were running up against the same problems. Working together, they finally cleared the necropolis in the year 350 ADW, and opened its library to the public soon after. Grenker are small people with white to pale green skin. Next to a human, they stand about chest height. Their eyes are smaller than the average being, but their little ears are more sensitive. Grenker like spaces that are moist and dark, but aren't true amphibians. Their short back legs are made for walking, not swimming, and they don't have big slimy tongues. Grenker are troglofauna, a species adapted to life underground in caves and other subterranean air-filled spaces. While some species lose their eyesight or gain new senses in the darkness of the underground, Grenker adapted to the dark in a unique way. Grenker have an appendage on their heads called an eska that contains bioluminescent bacteria, which Grenker control. The organ serves the obvious purpose of lighting darkened spaces, but in times long past also played a role in hunting. The faint green, white, or yellow glows attract insects and other creatures that live in the deep dark of the underground. In the summer months, you'll find groups of Grenker kids running around in the glow-fly-lit fields, playing exciting rounds of lantern tag. Grenker enjoy foods of all types, but a hearty fish and insect stew is a staple. One Grenker delicacy is a simple cheese seeded with mold from a particular cave in the Karnak Valley of Gildland. Stone Fort cheese is a bit stinky, but lots of Grenker like it. Helblings began their time on the Otherplace as halflings. A simple search of the Wikipedia page about halflings will reveal a bit about the origin of that name, that it comes from the Scots word hoflin, which apparently roughly means awkward teenager. And there's a little sentence there. The German surname Helbling has a similar origin. I like the word Helbling. As far as my research goes, it really doesn't have much of anything to do with halflings or awkward teens. Everything I found says it's a relatively uncommon name, meaning halfpenny, basically referencing a stingy person. But Helblings aren't any more stingy than anyone else in Fenrayne. Helblings are shorter than most beings, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a swishy tail with a little tuft at the end. A Helbling's body is covered in short hair from the neck down, but their long tails are hairless except for the ends. As far as their features go, they're mostly similar to humans or theirs, but their noses have slits on the side. Think of a dog's nose. When a Helbling exhales, the air swirls around in those slits, allowing them to pick up even the most minute of smells. They can distinguish more smells than most other species, and are quite good at using their noses to track things. Helblings are found most often in Guildland, and can be spotted in all of the major towns and cities. One well-known Helbling-founded town is Bantenburg. Bantenburg is a small town just outside of Gilder. Years ago, a pair of Helblings started their tavern, the Salted Grave, at a crossroads a half-mile south of the Gilder neighborhood of Southgate. Since then, other Helblings, Hütchen, Grenker, raccoons, and Woder have flocked to the area, bringing their own business, services, and trade. Bantenburg is welcoming to all, but you have to be a certain height to fit in the buildings. Like any big city, Gilder has its underworld. Smugglers use the canals to move illicit goods like grave dirt, haunted relics, and magical protections not approved by the Fellowship. They say there's a place called the Silver Spriggan, somewhere in Bantenburg, where you can go to find so-called acquisition experts, who can get you anything you need from all manner of secure places, including Fellowship Towers. Every year, on the days surrounding the summer solstice, Helblings across Fenrayne celebrate Zomerstadt. The festival coincides with the start of their new calendar year, and celebrates the sun, light, and life. Helblings decorate floats with flowers and other pleasant-smelling herbs, and march them around town accompanied by music and costume. Bands play throughout the festival and vendors sell food and trinkets. At night, a massive bonfire is lit. Helblings, silhouetted by the flames, dance until dawn amid the wafts of burning rose, lavender, and mugwort. Humans. What can I say about humans? Remember in the last episode when I said that most species evolved around the same time? Humans are one of the exceptions. Humankind has been around longer than any other species living on Earth. Though they've been around for a while, their memories are short. Lots of important stuff has happened in the last 600 years, but their knowledge of history before that gets a bit fuzzy. Many of the great marvels around Fenrayne are said to have been created by human engineering. The Chainmakers were said to be human. In time long forgotten, the Chainmakers built massive, chains. One was said to connect the floating city of Lys to the ocean floor. Hundreds of years of rust and ocean currents dislodged it, and now the city follows the currents off the eastern coast of Guildland. The Chainmakers were also said to have made the Point Boom. The boom that protects the harbor at Point is massive and ancient. Its towers are impressive in their construction. The Chainmakers' use of metals exceeds the skill of most modern metalworkers. The tools and techniques of these ancient people have been lost to time. In more recent history, humans founded the Fellowship of the Seven Rivers. Jarl Steinhardt, fed up with the dead and necromancers' grabs for power, started the Fellowship in the year 168 ADW. Jarl Steinhardt and her two brothers, Ian and Owen, each inherited a large sum from their parents when they passed away. Ian was one for adventure, and spent his inheritance to outfit a party of fine warriors on a mission for more riches. After months on the road, he came back bedraggled, all of his fighters dead. A necromancer had raised an army near the eastern Spine Mountains and attacked them on the road. When his warriors died, the necromancer turned them against him. All he returned with was the steel in his own sheath. Owen was a bit more shrewd with his money, investing in the workshops of Hearth. He set out to the west to visit the city. He too was attacked on the road. All he returned with was the white cloak that he had used as a flag of surrender. Yaren decided to do something. Investing her inheritance in the local foundry, she commissioned cold steel to combat the dead. She trained the villagers in her fiefdom. Heading out with her brother's steel and cloak, she and her soldiers met the necromancer head on. Many died that day, but life was victorious. Jarl Steinhardt founded the Fellowship of the Seven Rivers that day and built a massive citadel on the site of that battle. As a final note, certain kinds of magic are easier for humans to access than other species. There have also been more human necromancers in Fenrayne's history than any other species. I'll let you make your own decisions about that. The name Hütchen, with an umlaut over the U, came from just having fun with words and associations. Back in Season 1, Fenrayne had gnomes. Gnomes are known for wearing little pointy hats. Think David the Gnome. Hütchen is German for little hat, but not necessarily the kind of hat that you would wear on your head. A Hütchenspiel is a shell game. Gnomes became Hütchen, but pretty much all of their gnomishness is gone. Hütchen are unique among the people of Fenrayne in that they have 3 sets of limbs. Like everyone else, they've got 2 arms and 2 legs, but sticking out of their back, there are 2 small wings. Unfortunately for Hütchen, those small wings are effectively useless. Remnants of a time when Hütchen took to the skies, they now hide their vestigial appendages under shirts, jackets, or armor. Hütchen first lived in the mountains and lowland coastal areas to the southwest of Hearth. Hyljan scholars believe that they lost their flight in an evolutionary response to the threat of predation. Dawn eagles, the apex predator in that part of the world, have been known to hunt animals as large as red elk and moss wolves. A Hütchen's natural mottled skin tones, in grays, browns, and other stony colors, helps them blend into the ground, much better than if they were in the air. Hütchen are like the majority of people we're talking about today. They come to about chest height on humans and theirs. They've got thin arms and sturdy legs, and most of their bodies are covered in bare, scaly skin, though they've usually got some patches of feathers here and there. They've got a large bill that may have at one point in time been used for scooping up fish. Their claw-tipped hands are dexterous and at home doing anything from playing the glockenspiel to wielding a small sword to guiding a plow. Hütchen prefer to make friends outside their own species. It's not that they don't get along with other Hütchen, but it's hard to compete with multiple people trying to be the center of attention. Since they lack plumage, they compensate with bright-colored clothing and performative skills. Lots of Hütchen like to make music. Some like to perform in other ways, like acting and acrobatics. When a Hütchen meets someone that they'd like to share center stage with, Hütchen or not, they stay loyal to them for life. Hylja were originally elves. The journey from elf to Hylja is not quite roundabout, but not quite perfect. Let's go on that little journey. In Icelandic folklore, there are elves, also known as Alfafolk, and then there are Huldafolk, or the hidden people. The Alfafolk and the Huldafolk are similar, but not the same. The hidden people are both of this world and another place. They can make themselves appear and disappear at will. They have a deep connection to nature. So from elves to Iceland to the hidden people, I started looking for a name for this new species with ties to nature. Translation apps to the rescue. Hylja in Icelandic means covered, concealed, or hidden. Who would Fenrayne's hidden people be? Where would they live or hide? What would they be like? These questions had me thinking of places both low and high, and things that could live in the dark. Hylja transformed from an elf analog to a people descended from fungi. Hylja tend to be tall and lean. They look very similar to humans, but their skin has a bit more of a spongy texture, with skin tones ranging from pale yellow and orange to gray to red and sienna. Some Hylja have scales on their skin, others have small spots, ridges, pits, or striations that run across their bodies. Some Hylja are able to grow mushrooms on their bodies, but most people think that's unhygienic. Behind their long ears, all Hylja have a set of gills, used to release spores. While they're found all throughout Fenrayne, the old Hyljan cities are where you'll find them most often. The city of Hylja perches on top of one of the highest mountains in the western spine. Surrounded by rocky cliffs, stony rises, and fungal spires, Hylja is the citadel of science and reason that many other cities aspire to be. The University of Hylja is one of the great learning places in Fenrayne that produces many of the higher-ranking members of the Fellowship of the Seven Rivers. On a perfectly clear day in Hylja, you can see hundreds of miles in every direction, and at night, the sky is so dark, astronomers have been able to map the surface of the Earth's farthest moon, and have found 7 other planets orbiting the Sun. Hylja has initiatives in place concerning the types of lights and lanterns allowed at night in order to keep the sky perfectly clear. Deep below the city lie the growth chambers. Here, young Hylja sprout from the rich soil. They thrive in the darkness and feed off decaying matter until they're ready to join the world. Hylja are not assigned a gender when they sprout, but many choose one or more later in life. Hylja families have growth plots underneath their homes on the surface. Families are tightly knit, with many relatives living close to each other in High and other cities. Hylja regularly travel across the country of Fenrayne throughout their lives. Cultural expectations dictate that they'll master a single craft over the course of their existence, though many eschew the norms and have lives like everyone else in Fenrayne. The sciences are a common choice for them, though some Hylja choose to master a fine art like painting, a trade like goldsmithing or carpentry, or a skill like swordplay. Though from the outside, Hylja culture seems to revolve around science and learning, Hylja see the artistry in everything. The landscape and architecture of High, for example, is based on the movements of the cosmos. Streets and important buildings follow the paths of the planets and their moons. Facades are decorated with intricate reliefs and mosaics of elements and molecules. Artists hold high places in Hylja society. The current president of High, Adriana Curio, was a sculptor before winning the position. Hylja who leave their ancestral homes are expected to make the pilgrimage back at least twice in their lives, once to release their spores, and again to return to the soil when they die. Unlike most others in Fenrayne, Hylja tend not to come back after death. Their bodies return quickly to the earth, where they go on to feed new life. I hope you enjoyed this short journey into the world of Fenrayne. We'll see you next time for more about the world and the people in it. Thank you to Crystal, Erica, and Logan who asked questions for this episode. If you're interested in our world, be sure to check out the Otherplace podcast. Each season we follow a new group of adventurers as they journey across Fenrayne, uncovering mysteries and trying to save the world from the encroaching darkness. You can find the Otherplace wherever you get your podcasts. The Fenrayne Files is a production of Nightcast Creative. To learn more about us and the podcasts we make, visit nightcastcreative.com. They're claw-tipped hams. They're claw-tipped hams.